back to study section 5 on SOS 201 Principles of Soil Science. In the previous study section, we discussed soil aeration and temperature, where we talked about the presence and absence of air, that is the oxygen, one of the growth factors in the soil that affects plant growth. But here we'll be talking about the soil classification and survey. Since soil is one of the fundamental components of terrestrial ecosystems, we must therefore attempt to ascertain how soil interacts with them. These ecosystems are transformed directly or indirectly by man into agro ecosystems, which furnish fiber and other products such as textile, wood, and oil, etc. So the study of soil types must therefore be performed with the goal of determining their possible adaptation to this utilization. At the end of this study section, you should be able to explain the concepts and meaning of soil classification, soil survey, and soil mapping. Also, you should be able to describe one or two soil classification systems that includes in Nigeria. Also, you should be able to explain how soil surveys are prepared and used. And lastly, you should be able to describe different types of soil survey. Let's talk about this learning outcome one after the other. Soil survey is a branch of soil science which involves the identification of different types of soil in a given land scale and the location of the distribution to scale on a map. So in addition, soil survey provides information on the quality of the land in terms of their response to management and manipulation. So from this definition, it is clear that soil classification is a branch of soil survey, and the unit of classification is the taxonomic unit or mapping unit or PEDUN. A taxonomic class depicts the properties of a soil profile as given in the profile description and analysis. A mapping unit is a geographical unit, and it is an area of land within the greater proportion being occupied by the taxonomic class after which it's been named. The soil classification is useful for the following specific purposes. 1. To organize information and knowledge of the soil that are understandable and useful. 2. Soils are classified into groups to help us remember their names and important properties. Thirdly, it makes us to easily understand the relationships among individual soils being classified. Fourthly, soil classification enables us to predict soil behavior and even estimate their productivity. And also, soil classification helps us to identify the best use of particular soil. Process of soil classification. The following steps are articulated by ASU 1999, which constitutes general process of carrying out a natural soil classification, especially for those meant for agricultural purposes. 1. A field mapping, soil characterization, and field sampling of soils is then carried out. 2. It is armed with an adequate knowledge of the characteristics of the soils. The soil classifier, that is the pedologist, then formulates, differentiates at lowest category. Thirdly, this is followed by regrouping of higher classes into yet higher class. More extensive soil mapping is then carried out in areas of similar environmental setting to test the classification carried out at a different location. The new relationship lands, the criticism, and other ideas are finally incorporated into the classification. Final classification is thus obtained. There are two broad kinds of soil classification, which is being recognized as natural or taxonomic classification, which is also termed scientific classification, and the second one is technical classification. A natural or taxonomic classification is one in which the purpose of classification is to bring out the relationship of the most important properties of the population being classified without reference to any single specified and applied objective. So the most common examples of a natural soil classification system are the USDA soil taxonomy system and the FAO UNESCO soil map of the world legend. So the second one is technical classification. A technical classification is the one which is aimed at a specific applied and practical purposes. For example, classifying soils for agricultural or engineering purposes, or even more specifically classifying soils for maize production or for irrigated agriculture. The most common example of a technical classification which are widely used worldwide are the USDA Land Capability Classification System and the FAO Land Suitability Classification for rain-fed agriculture. African soils can be classified into the following. 1. Ferruginous tropical soils, and these are soils which have the A, B, C, D horizons designation. Some have B1 and B2, where the B could be a textural one in which the clay is accumulating. Ferry soils. These are the soils in this group are characterized by high base content, good structure, and high biological activity. Ferralitic soils. These soils reflect the final stage of weathering and leaching, whereby only the least mobile and least weatherable constituent remains. Hydromorphic soil. These are soils which are under the influence of water table. They are known by the degree of molten present. Soil surveys are of 6 types, namely schematic soil surveys, exploratory soil surveys, semi-detailed soil surveys, detailed soil surveys, and very detailed soil surveys. So the type adopted depends on the level of details required from the soil mapping. Kindly read all these types in your study materials. The process of surveying and mapping enables us to recognize and correlate different soil categories. So soil surveying is the process of studying and mapping the earth. Surveys in terms of soil types. A soil survey report consists of 2 parts. The soil map, which is accompanied by a description of the area shown on the map. So the 2 main conventional methods of soil survey are the rigid grid procedure and the free survey method. The rigid grid procedure. Transfers are used here. A transfer is a straight path open along a baseline in the area to be surveyed. Transfers are cut at the regular intervals, which depends on the kind of survey. Soils along the transfers are dug and studied. Tools such as the mug auger, bucket auger, shovel, and spade are used. Free survey. In this procedure, observations are also made along transverses, but the soil surveyor uses his judgment in siting soil observation in relation to land form and other environmental features. In other words, observations are not made as fixed intervals. So this method of survey is only convenient in the open country where both access and feasibility are almost unrestricted. The use of free survey method necessitates a good base map or here photographs upon which the surveyor can work without any problems of location so that observations and boundaries are correctly placed. This makes us to come to an end of this video section, and I hope you've learned 1 or 2 things from the video chat. Kindly join me for the next study section. Thank you for listening.